Alrighty. I hope everybody had a good week and weekend. We are starting finals right away. So on the first day of finals, I will open up the final assignment, and I want to show that to everybody so you guys know what to look out for. And when I do that, um, what I it'll be open for the whole uh, period of finals, and you can go and do it. And if you don't get all the points, come back and resubmit, make the changes that you need to, that kind of a thing. And then after you resubmit, I'll regrade it. But there's just a couple assignments that just came in today that haven't been graded, and I will take care of that. Several people have emailed me. I think I have answered all the emails. Please double check and make sure that all the assignments you have turned in are indeed graded. And all the ones that you've resubmitted, I've graded as well. A couple things that I've noticed is uh, there are a couple assignments that every once in a while somebody will turn in an assignment that looks like they didn't really read the directions and they didn't watch our team's discussion on it. Um, it is Attendance is 15% of your grade. And again, that does not mean you have to attend these lives. Obviously, nobody's here tonight. You don't have to attend them live, but you do need to watch the videos. If you don't watch the videos, you miss out. And of course, if you haven't watched the videos, you're missing this out. I'm out on my explanations and my clarifications on the assignments. So what I would recommend is that for any of the assignments that you have not gotten a perfect score for, go back and look at the discussions that we have for those weeks and just double check. Watch that. Make sure that you are up to date on watching all the videos in your attendance. It looks like I am going to open up the grading thing. I'm not going to show you the grading thing because it's personal information. I don't want to share that with people. But I'm going to tell you which things are missing for a lot of people. If you're already on, if you're on top of everything and you've done a good job of staying current, then you don't have anything to worry about. But there are elements that several people have missed that I want to just make sure that you guys get taken care of. Okay. And it looks like I'm just looking at this again. I'm not going to show it to you guys. Looks like we have a couple people that haven't picked up kits, so you're missing out on a little bit. There are discussions that people have not participated in, and so you can get more points by going back and doing that. Work logs, we're missing quite a few work logs from people. It looks like most work logs have been done, but work logs are, 5, 10 point little jobbies. And it is, if you are missing those, go ahead and get them done and turned in. Let's see. I've graded all the Mighty Voltron sculptures, revisiting with textures and light, the work logs. I've regraded all those. Um, let's see. And I will make sure that those get all graded by Friday for, whatever hasn't been turned in yet. And then I'm looking at the attendance. It looks like the first month or so, people were pretty good. And then a lot of people have missed after that. We're not doing too bad. And it's not every attendance, it's like a little bit here and there. So I just want you guys to make sure that you go back and rework, resubmit, whatever you need to. Okay. All right. So a couple of things that I want to do today is I want to look at the um, peer and self-critiques because we've got a couple of those that we can look at. But I also want to remind people that there's still a few annotated bibliographies that need to be turned in. There are still several PowerPoints that need to be turned in. And the artist research and the artist research final essays. Let's see, and a few um, quizzes. It looks like most everybody's done that. With the quizzes, I have had a couple people go back and retake quizzes without looking at the book again, this for the second time. And that makes it very difficult because, yeah, they might get a couple more points right, but the books, there's at least 6 copies that are available for you at the Fulton Library for free that you can check out for an hour. That's long enough to take your computer there, take the quiz while you're sitting in front of the book, and take care of that, and maybe even do a couple quizzes. And as long as there isn't a line of people waiting to get the textbooks, you can go up to the counter and check it out again if you need to, and just keep it with you as you take the quizzes. I have to turn in grades in 2 weeks, which means that the day before the grades are due is going to be the last day that I can accept stuff. What I want from you guys is um, Canvas is going to be open until the last day is a day of finals. And I believe that is April 29th. That is Wednesday, I believe. And it's going to be open until midnight. What I want you guys to do is just do your best to get stuff done, redone, and resubmitted up through midnight of the last day of finals. Now, if you cannot get everything done by then before the last day of finals, double check with Canvas which assignments you're missing, and then you can email those to me directly. If you do email the assignments to me, clearly label which assignments they are, let me know what's going on, and I will grade those as soon as I see those emails. I'm sorry that this last week we had a medical emergency, and so things were a little bit difficult on my end, but everything is pretty much graded. If you are missing anything that has not been graded that yet, let me know. And I'm going to go back through and tomorrow, everything will be finally graded and everything. But again, if you need to rework something and resubmit, go ahead and do that. You have about a week and a half, 2 weeks to do that. Let's see, what day is the 5th? The 5th is a Wednesday. So that is 2 weeks from today. Get everything that you possibly can done by the 4th. Um, so I guess that's 2 weeks from yesterday. And either if Canvas isn't working and allowing you to submit stuff, email it to me directly. After you submit, email me and let me know that you've submitted. Double check that I've graded everything of yours. If there's anything I've missed, let me know right away. Again, you guys can go back and resubmit and submit whatever you need to. I know that there's been a number of situations in the class this semester, and that is totally fine. I get it. Just make sure that you keep in contact with me, as many of you are, and resubmit and submit assignments. So let's see. I am going to, okay, we looked at that. I wanted to mention student SRIs. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're missing 7 in the class. With the SRIs, um, that is a 2% bump in your grade right off the bat. And so you get a good grade, you get a better grade as soon as you submit it. It's free, it's easy. Everybody should have an email for that that you got through the university. Double check, do a search if you haven't seen it, do a double search in your university email for SRI, and that should take you to a link for all the classes that you're taking. And that is a pretty simple 2% bump in your grade. We are still needing several artistic critiques from my own or self-critiques and peer critiques. I want to show a couple different examples right now for the people that have turned stuff in. And it looks like one person submitted their peer critique but did not submit a self-critique. So, double check that. But I'm going to go ahead and share my, no, I'm sorry. Before we get to that, I want to share with you what the online final looks like. And you guys have up and through the last day of finals to take it. So, and I've got to edit it as well. See, today is the 22nd. I'm just changing some dates on this so I can open it for you guys. And I'm sending it out. I'm going to email people to remind everybody about it. And I will email everybody every day until the finals are done. All right, so I'm going to do a screen share and I'll show you what this is. All right, so here's the online final. This is what it looks like. Very simple, very straightforward. What you need to do is submit through this portal, as an assignment. You're going to be submitting it basically comes out to be a 300-word essay. And it's 75 words for each of these 4 questions. So when you submit it, you're going to have number 1, your 75-word answer, number 2, your 75-word answer, number 3, etc. Okay, for all 4 of these. So 75 words for each of these. So the total is going to be at least 300 words. You can copy and paste this into another document and submit that document. But what you cannot do is count these questions towards the word count of the answers. And I have to say that because I've had some people try to get away with that. And again, if you do this at the beginning of finals week, then what's going to happen is if there's anything missing or you don't meet the word count or you don't get full points, you'll have an opportunity to go back and resubmit this before the end of finals. And so you have, a week to work on this. So what I want you to do is think about your experience throughout the semester. And the first question is, what was your greatest challenge in the course? What was the thing that scared you the most or that you found the most difficult to do? And then answer with 75 words at least. And then what was your greatest success in this course? And sometimes these are going to be related. Sometimes when people are able to overcome the greatest challenge, they find out that that was the most successful thing. And that's fine. But this also needs to be 75 words, that answer. And number 3 rather, what was the biggest surprise? And that could be you didn't think you could do it, but you ended up being able to, or you thought the material was going to be a lot harder or easier than it was, and it was the opposite. Or you discovered that you applied something and it opened the tools of artistic critique and it opened up a window of understanding to you, or any of those things. I've had answers from people that were digital artists that were saying that the biggest surprise to them was how well working in 3D just impacted their digital illustration work, because they were a lot more aware of what things are supposed to look like in the three-dimensional space. And the fourth answer is, what one principle will you take from this course and use in your future career as an artist? And I have had people answer this from all around, from as many different perspectives as you can imagine, and more, where people talk about how their service learning project was absolutely astounding and they realized that they really wanted to work with people. Or they recognized that by doing that, they had an awful lot to offer. About other people say, well, I'm finishing my art degree, but I have another job in a completely different field. But I am using, for example, the tools of artistic critique, or I'm using the different tools that I've developed in this class for observation in the job that I have. Some of the most interesting ones is somebody going into nursing and realizing that the stuff that they learned in the art class actually can help them. Now, this final is very important. It is absolutely vital to your grade because if you do not take the final, if you do not complete it sometime before the last moment of finals, and again, you have until midnight on the 29th. Okay, I just changed this, but it's not showing up. So I'm going to, I just changed the date on this and I don't know why it's not showing up. So that's really kind of weird to me. But if you do not take the final, okay, yeah, these dates are right. So it's due on the April 29th, the last day of finals on midnight, and it is available from tomorrow until then. So you can take it at any point. When you submit it, email me right away so I can grade it immediately. But what is really important about this is if you do not take the final, according to the department mandate, you can lose a full letter grade. So if you are getting a B plus right now and you don't take the final, you'll get it, walk away. The highest grade you can get is a C plus. And I know that that's what you need to graduate, but if you care about your GPA, make sure that you take the final. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and publish it because you aren't gonna be able to access. Well, I'm gonna publish it tonight at midnight, so you guys have access to it starting tomorrow. And I want you to just take it as soon as you possibly can, and I will grade as I see it and take care of it. All right. Now, another thing I wanted to uh, look at today with you guys is what folks have turned in for their 3D sculpture. And if you haven't finished this yet, or you want to go back and touch up yours, you can do that. But I want to um, show those to everybody. And so we're going to look at those too before we leave tonight. So if anybody has any questions about the final, contact me, let me know. But it's pretty straightforward. It is not cumulative, and it is not a test of your knowledge. It is an opportunity for you to reflect on your experience during the class and what you learned about yourself and other elements of this class. So this is absolutely vital, and I would also recommend very highly that people go back and do those peer and self critiques as well on video. And the ones that I've been seeing are really good. So we're going to go ahead and watch uh, um, these peer and self critiques, excuse me. And what I'm seeing is that on this batch, they're pretty good too. We've got three of them, so we're going to watch three of them. We're going to go to this tab, and then after we watch these three, we're going to look at all of the Mighty Voltron sculptures that people have done and turned in, and I'll talk about each of those. Okay, so here we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, here we go.
So this is a small miniature house placed at the end of what looks like to be a concrete walkway. The colors on the house is bright yellow. It's got a very saturated, vivid blue door and a red texture tiled looking roof. Um, there are small details on this house, like a pink flowering vine climbing up the sides and a tiny little potted plant next to the entrance, as well as a tiny window with some detail on it. Um, the house is positioned between two walls. One is off white, one is gray, and they create a corner behind it. The ground around the house is made of concrete, and there's some scattered leaves and debris off to the side. The lighting is strong and direct. Um, and that casts some defined shadows and makes the colors appear very saturated and bold. The composition for this photograph of the house uses strong lines including the edges of the concrete walkway that guide the viewer's eye directly toward the house, which makes it a clear focal point. The house is centered but also framed by the vertical walls, which creates a sense of enclosure and emphasis. The color contrast is one of the most striking elements here. The bright yellow and blue of the house stand out really sharply against the gray from the concrete. Um, and the way the artist used the red and the pops of color add to that. It has a very vibrant palette. The textures are also really important. The smooth surfaces of the walls contrast with some of the details of the handcrafting of this miniature house. Um, to me, this piece feels really playful and imaginative. Um, the way the house is tiny and put against some industrial like background uh, is interesting, and it kind of creates this contrast between whimsy and mundane. Um, and and the little bright colors create this kind of charming, cheerful, hidden escape within a really rigid, structured environment. Um, Maybe there's even a commentary on scale, how something small can command attention even in the presence of something that's big and taking up a lot of space. Um, I really enjoyed looking at this piece from the very beginning of our class. I find it to be very successful and visually engaging. It's kind of delightful for me to look at the little tiny details, and I love the vibrant use of colors. And just the um, like the way that the photography is done. It's creative, it's well composed, and overall shows a good use of imagination.
I thought that was excellent. Really, really well done. Um, Sarah goes through each of the four tools. She doesn't delineate them. She doesn't say, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing that. But she's very precise in her language. The description is really, really solid. And I like the recollect, not the recollections, the reflections that she has on it towards the end. So really, really well done. And she comes in right at 4 minutes, and that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. So excellent. Now I just double checked. Finals is over on um, the 29th at midnight. I'm going to go ahead and publish this right now so you guys have it. I'm going to email, as soon as we're done with class, I'm going to email everybody and tell people that the online final is available and ready for you guys to go. So, so I'll craft a little bit of an email and send that out tonight. But it is published, it is online, it is ready for you guys to go. Okay, so think Sarah did an excellent job. Now we're going to go to a peer critique by Alex. We're going to watch this. It comes in at just a hair over 3 minutes, which is exactly right. It fits perfectly within the time frame that you guys have. So, which is 3 to 5 minutes. So let's give it a listen.
This piece is a miniature house made by Grace Scoresby for the sculpture-based photography assignment. The first thing I noticed is how cute it looks. It looks like a little fairy house. The house looks like it is made from popsicle sticks. It is brown with a yellow door and a pinkish chimney. It is decorated with moss, sticks, rocks, and fake flowers. These create a lot of interesting textures and colors. There are many shades of green and multiple different textures in the moss. The flowers are purple and white. It is resting on a group of leaves with both live green leaves and dead brown leaves in the background. It has 3 windows that look like frosted glass and have flowers as a covering. The house looks like it is made from popsicle sticks that are painted to achieve the brown color, and sticks that are over the windows. The door looks like painted paper of some kind, and the knob and hinges might have been made from hot glue and then painted. To attach the rocks, flowers, and moss, the artist likely used glue of some kind. To create the frosted look inside of the windows, the artist might have used parchment paper. To add to the fantasy feel of the house, the artist made it asymmetrical and used curved lines rather than making it symmetrical and using straight lines. The popsicle sticks creating the bricks are not perfectly lined up and make the house more interesting. The light purple of the curtains and the light color of the chimney help to draw your eye around the piece and help to balance the bright yellow of the door. The multiple colors and textures of the moss help draw your interest and make you want to look for all the details in the roof. There are so many little details that make this piece very interesting and look like it could be real. My interpretation of this piece is that there can be many stories depending on the viewer. It catches the viewer's attention and has many parts to explore. I think of a fairy house when I see it, and the background of leaves makes it seem like a fairy could walk in or out at any moment. I think that the artist was trying to bring a little more magic into the world with their piece. For the assignment, they could have made a house that looks like one a human lives in, but they chose to make one that seems like a fantasy. It is so pretty and would be so interesting to see as a real house. I think that this work is successful. It fulfills the requirements of the assignment, but also adds more. My opinion of the piece is still the same as when I first saw it. I think that it is very well made and looks so real. The house has many interesting textures and colors. The bright door really draws the eye and brings the focus to the house. The background helps to add to the fantasy feeling of the house, and the dead leaves help to add more texture and contrast to the background. The work is very beautiful and the artist did a great job. It encourages people to see the magic in the world around them.
That is really well done too. Alex did a terrific job on that. Um, one thing that I really appreciate is Alex went into great detail on extrapolating how this was made, talking about the different materials, how they're put together, why the materials were interesting, what kinds of things drew your eyes around. So I thought this was very nicely done. Excellent. And it was only 3 minutes long, so it fits in the parameters just precisely. You don't have to talk an awful lot, but Alex did a great job. Another excellent critique. Again, what I'm looking for is precision on what you're doing as you're talking about the thing that we're looking at, and go the application of each of the four tools. And Alex did a great job of that. So another excellent example. Okay, so this one that we're looking at is actually going to be the self-critique by Sarah. Sarah did the peer critique, the very first peer critique that we looked at. I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Okay, this is the house, and this one is by Sarah Hunter. To describe what I'm seeing, I'm looking at a small handcrafted house that was placed outdoors. Um, what appears to be like a forest floor. The house is bright yellow. It's got green windows, a green door, and a green moss-like material that covers the roof. The windows are small and rounded, um, and the tiny green door has hinges and it's slightly open. The structure looks miniature, like something from a fairy tale or a child's storybook. The environment around it has some dried grass, twigs, and pine needles. It's got a blurred background of tall, bare trees. Um, the artist used a shallow depth of field to take this photograph, and that helps keep the focus on the house while the background fades softly. The lighting appears natural. It's very diffused. Maybe it was taken on an overcast day, which gives the image a soft and muted tone overall. To analyze this composition, it's centered and the house is the focal point. And the artist used depth of field effectively to isolate the subject from the background. This draws the viewer's eye directly to the small structure. The warm yellow of the house contrasts with the earthy browns and the muted tones of the forest floor, which makes it stand out visually. Texture plays an important role in this composition. The roughness of the moss roof contrasts with the smoother paint on the surfaces of the house, and the organic textures of the ground add realism. The perspective of this photograph is low to the ground, and that makes the viewer feel as though they're on the same scale of the house, which enhances the immersive quality. And the use of natural light softens shadows, reduces harsh contrast, and creates kind of this calm, almost dreamy, ethereal atmosphere. Um, to interpret this piece, I see themes of imagination, fantasy, maybe even some escapism. This is a tiny house in a real outdoor setting, which gives this impression that there's like a hidden world, like maybe a fairy dwelling or something magical that exists just out of sight. Um, Maybe it's a commentary on the childhood wonder um, of kind of discovering things or using imagination or the idea of finding beauty and magic in small, overlooked places. The open door might symbolize invitation, encouraging the viewer to come into the imaginary world or the miniature world. There's also some kind of a sense of solitude or quietness, which might reflect a desire for simplicity or a retreat from a larger, more chaotic world. Overall, this is a strong and visually engaging piece. The craftsmanship of the house and the thoughtful placement in a natural environment work well. The contrast in color and texture draws attention and keeps the viewer interested. It successfully makes the viewer feel small, which enhances the narrative and the imaginative quality. The background, the soft background blur is also really effective in emphasizing the subject. Um, as far as improvement, it's possible that the artist could um, experiment with placing the subject slightly off center to create maybe some visual tension or experiment with the use of light um, to further enhance the photograph. But overall, the piece is creative and cohesive, and it evokes a sense of wonder and storytelling.
I thought that was another really good one. Excellently done. I One thing that I really appreciate this, and I know that it's hard, and I am impressed with all of you that have done this. You've done an exceptional job. This is Sarah's work, and critiquing your own work is incredibly difficult because you're not critiquing the work, you're critiquing it from the evidence of all the things that you've learned and all the choices you've made since creating the work. So, you're not looking at the work, you're looking at everything you learned from doing it and critiquing it in relationship to what you learned from it, which is incredibly unfair to yourself. And so the fact that Sarah was able to step away from the fact that this is their own work, I thought was really exceptional. Being very precise in description, very precise in how it was made for the analysis and everything. I thought it was really, really well done. Nicely done. And I liked how they brought in things like fantasy and mysticism and different things like that. Because yeah, it does kind of play with a lot of those um, ideas and hallmarks. So really nicely done. Very well done. Okay, so I'm going to. So I just thought that was really good. So you guys do an excellent job on this. After we get off the call tonight, I'm going to go through and just remind people about the different assignments that are still due. And again, like I said, you have until the 29th. That's when Canvas shuts. And if you still need more time beyond that, then email the assignments to me. Make sure that they're labeled. All right, so looking at this guy, this is really interesting. The shape, I think, is a fascinating shape. And I see the only thing that's kind of interesting, well, there if it was just flat green, it'd be boring. But what I'm liking is they're doing things with it where we have a couple different shades of green. It's really subtle, but they have different elements like this dark brown and natural elements and this really dark brown right here that I think make it very interesting. We have some contrasting color right here. I think that this is really fascinating. What I would like to see is a lot more of these polka dots, perhaps. Maybe that would be really interesting, or doing something like this area right here feels really bare to me. And that might be fascinating to put like a couple different shades of green that are more obviously different and painting it with some visual texture there. I really like what's going on here. And I think that this would be so much more fun so much fun to see that follow up this way. And maybe even more of these up here, more of these flowers. I think there's another view where we see that the flowers go across the back. I think that's really nice. I like how they've done the pedestal. I think this is looking really very interesting. I'm going to share that. That's going to be the holding one as I get to the next one. Okay. Oh. Now some of these we have looked at before, and some of these we're only looking at like one image just because that's well, actually, let me see if I can find another image on this one. You're not seeing what I'm seeing yet because I haven't shared the screen. Okay, yeah, that's a better photo. Okay. We did look at this one last week, and this is a really fascinating one. The shape itself is really kind of rather simple, and that's fine. It is organic, it is biomorphic, it's exactly everything that we talked about. What I want to draw your attention to that I think is really fascinating is the way that they applied. I don't know if this is caulking or what material it is, but you can hopefully see it feels like it's cross between finger painting and like cake frosting. And it's really fascinating. I love it. That really gives a lot of depth to the color. And I like where the edges where it blends together and the pedestal that it's setting on, turning it into a cake. Or a cake-like texture. I think that that's really fascinating, and I love all the different shapes and sizes of these gold pieces in there. So I think that that turned out really interesting. Okay, so we're looking at this guy. This is interesting. I don't. This feels to me like it is not. It looks like it's a painted paper mache, and the paper mache wasn't sanded down really well. And I think that this is overall kind of really, really interesting, but it doesn't quite fit the parameters of the assignment. Because this area, I mean, we need to have texture, we need to have color. And this appears to be just a flat color, and maybe it's supposed to be monochrome gray. But I would recommend, and I really like this part sticking out right here. I like what's going on there. I like the contrast of this structure on the pedestal. But I think this would be look really very, very cool if we did more obvious textural work with the paint on this and applied some texture, more texture right here. Because right now, The only real texture that's added to this is the foil. So I think there's a lot of really cool things going on, and this is very interesting by itself, but it doesn't quite meet the parameters or expectations of the assignment. So I would recommend doing something where you even like tear strips of foil and glue it starting at the tip and overlap them. Or glue it down here, starting down here, excuse me, and overlap it so it almost looks like scales or something like that. That could be really interesting. And I would recommend finding something that's another texture right here. Look at that previous one we saw where they had torn up little bits of paper, and that could be a really cool texture. That'd be fascinating. I think that'd be very cool. And this does need to be sanded a little bit before they painted it. But I think that it's one of these things where it's a fascinating shape by itself, but it doesn't quite meet the full parameters of the assignment. So I would say more texture. And maybe on this, what they would need to do is find some textural paint quality. If you mix um, baking soda with acrylic, you can get some really cool textures. Applying that with like a sponge or something can be really fascinating. And then painting over that with, several tones of gray would be really cool. I think that'd be very, very interesting. Okay. Now this is really interesting to me. It's very strong, bold colors, but I think this it doesn't quite meet the expectations of the assignment or expectations of you guys as students. What I would recommend on this one is first, the photograph leaves some things to be desired. Better lighting. This is your ultimate thing. It needs to be really well lit. And I would recommend either painting or wrapping this base so we don't see the numbers, we don't see the raw foam, because this is the final presentation of your final piece for the class. I would also recommend something where we have more consistency throughout this. A couple pieces of pipe cleaners is not doing it. I would say finding string that mates or fits this color and using that, quite a bit of it, to make a band of blue string, incorporating the pipe cleaner within it, red string and yellow string. I think that could be really interesting. I think that the color scheme is really fascinating, but for this class, you guys are all professional artists. So I would say like a couple different shades of blue with texture applied on it would look really interesting. If you're going to use sequins, use a lot of sequins. If you're going to use glitter, use a lot of glitter. And it may be that for the glitter texture, you take a bunch of glitter, mix it up with Elmer's glue, paint the whole thing on so when the glue dries, you have textural quality to the glitter itself. That would be very, very cool. Doing that right there and right here. And again, I would say more wrapping. It looks to me like this is still a work in progress. Um, I would highly recommend that this person for the end of the semester wraps the base, light this with brighter light so we get a full look of it, and tie this with blue string, red string, and yellow string as well, incorporating the pipe cleaners into that because this is a great start, but I think it needs more to it to finish it off so it looks like a final project. And again, the things I'm saying are things in relationship to the parameters and expectations of the assignment as we've talked about it in class, with class discussions as well as in the assignment itself. Okay, I think this one is really fascinating to me. It looks to me like the color scheme is relatively simple. We have earth tones, we have green, we have red, we have kind of cream and gray. I think that is all really interesting, but this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Instead of just putting a little bit of texture, they built up a path of texture, and you can see that texture right there. It feels like it's very intentional. The moss thing is not just a little bit of here and there, it's layered on and wrapping around. I think that's really fascinating. And this reddish texture continues around there and through here. And we have, it looks like fishing line wrapped to the point where even if, like a single strand would be almost clear, but we're wrapping it to the point where you see that turquoise and green color of the fishing line on a spool when you see layers and layers of the fishing line. And it looks like they're doing some similar stuff over here. And the base itself is painted a solid brown, which I think is a really good base. And I love how this is photographed. I think they did a terrific job um, presenting this. And then you look right here, they incorporated some of their wire from their wire piece onto it. I think this is a really excellent example. They did a great job on that. And I hope you guys can tell the kinds of things that I'm looking at, where um, the object itself may be a beautiful object, and you did a great job on the object, but we're not looking at the object itself. We're looking at meeting the parameters of the assignment and what we talked about in class. Okay, so looking at this, the object itself is terrific. I'm not happy with the base. I think you got a big piece of white paper and wrap the base in white paper really well. That would look a lot better. Or even removing this and painting this with white paint or something would feel better. With just regular paper towels, it just doesn't feel, the base doesn't feel very finished. The sculpture itself, though, looking at that, I really like how this turned out. This turned out beautifully. And you can, when I'm talking about textured paint areas, it looks to me like they have gray and purple. And it looks like there's two different shades of purple on this. Yeah, you can argue that this is one color, but the way they textured and everything, it just makes it incredibly interesting. This is just fascinating. It's beautifully done. I like how the wire on there, makes it look almost ethereal kind of thing. I love how they applied this texture. I can't even figure out what that is. They have clumps of wire here and spirals and everything like that adding to it. This texture is repeated over here. We have this triangular motif, several different colors of triangles that blending it. Now, again, we don't have just one or two or three. It feels like a field of texture. And yeah, we do have like this little flower here, but we also have it repeated here and here and here. That doesn't bother me too much because this is not a simple shaped object. It looks like a flower that's encased with a wire, and the wire itself is turned into another flower. And then this texture of wire is repeated with the wire right here, and the wire right there, and the wire right there. So I think this is a really good example as well of working texturally with the different elements and stuff like that, and just making it fascinating to look at. On that one, if changing anything, I would change the base itself, how the base is treated. Okay, we're going to the next one now. This is really interesting to me. I like how they did the base here. It makes it almost look like a diorama. So this becomes almost like a creature. I like how they painted this with several different shades of blue and giving it some visual texture to it. Then we have these like golden dots appearing around. This is a really fascinating element right through here. It starts creating another texture. I There are some things that I can see that could be added to this that might make it really interesting, like doing more textural components on the body of the thing itself would be really fascinating, and that's part of what we talked about. Like maybe instead of just having these be gold dots, maybe they are gold dots made with textured gold confetti, where they took a bunch of um, gold confetti, mixed it with something like Elmer's glue that dries clear, and then painted that on in several different layers and building that up. That would be incredibly fascinating That'd be very cool. Because on the body itself, all I see is the visual texture. And that even though it looks really, really cool, I would recommend putting on some more physical texture so that it meets the parameters of the assignment. I love what they did with the base. I think that is really fascinating. And this element right through here, these are really cool. And if this is a texture that they want to make this item with, I would say make maybe 4 or 5 more strands of these and put them all close together so you really feel that as a specific texture. I think that'd be fascinating. And again, when I'm looking at this, what I'm looking at is not, I'm not looking at it as being a good or bad object. What we are looking at specifically is how well these fit the parameters of the assignment. So that's what I'm looking at. And a lot of the stuff that you guys make is amazing just by itself. So again, when I'm talking about changing things and looking at things, they're in relationship to parameters of the assignment, not whether or not what you've done is any good. Because all of what you've done is, you guys are great artists. And just as you're taking a class for credit, you have to adjust what you produce so that it exemplifies or fills the parameters of each assignment. So everything is pretty much graded right now. I would like everybody go through, double check, make sure that I've graded everything. If I haven't, let me know, email me. Several people emailed me today and yesterday, and I've taken care of those. Um, the assignments that are missing, you still have until the 29th, which is next Wednesday, I believe, to take care of that and get those taken care of. Do that. Turn those in. And if you need to resubmit, turn that in. If you need more days past then, you'll need to email me and let me know. When you submit stuff, let me know right away. Email me through the university email system rather than Canvas after the 29th so that I can see that and take care of it. Before the 29th, go ahead and email me through Canvas and I will take care of it as soon as I see your email if I haven't taken care of it before. But it's really important that you guys, especially several people have told me, hey, I updated my discussion comments and things like that, and I've been able to go in and update the grade. So do that, take care of things, look at what I've said about changes that need to be made so you can resubmit stuff and do that. Now today it's a little bit short. Those are the things that I wanted to go through and look at with you really quick. Let's see. One thing that we can also do is go back through and well, it looks like we've seen almost all of the ready-mades, and there's some really fascinating ones. Well, we actually do have a couple more ready-mades that we haven't looked at before that I think are really worth a look, and so I'll show those to you. And then after that, we're pretty much if I was going to ask if you guys want me to go over anything else, but nobody's here, so that'll make it difficult to go over other stuff. If you don't understand a comment that I've made, don't just take the grade sitting down. Let me communicate with me and let me know. So because I've had people do that before, and the grade that they got ended up being higher after that because the photo that they sent me didn't really tell the full story. And I've noticed that on some of the color cubes that the color and texture cubes that people have turned in, the photos are not really good. So I don't see that. And I notice that on the color ones, a few people have painted them. It needs to be a collage, which is separate pieces of paper. And on the texture and color cubes are not the same. The texture focuses on texture, the color focuses on color. For the color cube, you have 6 faces, and of those 6 faces, you need to pick 3 color schemes like complementary, triadic, monochromatic, and for each of those, you pick 2 color sets to use for each of those 3 schemes, and that gives you the 6 sides. For the texture, each of the 6 sides needs to be a different texture. All right, so here on this one, it's a found object, jawbone of a horse, and title of the piece Echoes of Labor. Okay, well, look at this photo. This is really interesting to me because they've taken just this, they've put it upside down on a fence post on a farm, and you can clearly see it's a farm. But they photographed this, and I think that this is really an interesting setup because it is kind of a dramatic photo, and it almost looks like a Western painting. And giving it a new title gives it a different life than what you'd expect from just a bone. So I think they did a good job on that one. Okay, so that's one that we haven't seen yet. And I believe that there's another one. Okay, this one I think is really interesting. So this is the image that they made, and you can tell that the pedestal is just a tiny block of wood. So this is a little teeny thing. I want you to look at the photo. The photo has one source of light coming down. It's focusing on this. It looks like it should be displayed in a museum because it looks like it's on a pedestal. I think the photo is well done on that. And then when the person found it, it looks like a mud dauber nest. A mud dauber is kind of wasp. That's pretty nasty. I think they sting like the dickens. But this piece is called Community. Okay, great. That is really fascinating because they're recontextualizing it by placing it in a museum setting. And it is something that originally is really, really tiny. And by doing a close-up photo like this, part of the recontextualization is resizing it. So, which I think is fascinating. And it makes me uncomfortable because it's that polka dot thing. But what's fascinating is, calling it community, yeah, it's a nest for wasps. And recontextualizing it with a name like that, community is typically a rather inviting name, and these things are not, they're usually considered pests. I think that's just really fascinating. So I think this is another really good job at recontextualizing a found object. What I would recommend is go back and look at the different discussion boards, the discussions that people have done where they posted their things, and make comments on them. At the very least, let them know that you saw it and you liked it. But there's some really fascinating stuff that you guys are doing. Well, I've really enjoyed this semester with you guys, and you guys have been making some really fantastic stuff that I really, really like looking at. Again, submit everything that you haven't turned in yet. Resubmit after I make comments on it. Double check that I've graded everything and you're up to date, and make sure that this next week you take your final for this class. Again, it's answers to 4 questions, 75 words per answer. And if you submit that right away, then I can grade it right away. And if you need to change anything, you have several days to change it. The other thing is make sure that you do your SRI and get that submitted as well. It gives you 2% extra. All right, guys, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your finals. Have loads and loads of fun taking care of them. And give me either text me or email me if you have any questions or need any clarification on anything. All right, guys? And thank you very much for being in my class. I've really enjoyed it.